Hello, today we're going to do an artwork inspired by Georgia O'Keeffe and her desert pictures. She loved all the things she could find in her desert where she lived in New Mexico. For this project you will need a 10 by 11 inch watercolor paper, pencil, eraser, water, paintbrush, and tempera cake paints. We're going to start by drawing the 3 horizontal lines for the land, the mountains, the base of the mountains, and then the line splitting the foreground and midground. That will give us foreground, midground, and background. Just a general tip for painting landscapes. Paint horizontally, which is left to right, not vertically, which is up and down. Okay, I'm going to start by painting the mountains. I start by painting a nice dark pinkish purplish line across the top edge of the mountains, and then I add a lot of water. I'm not even using paint at this point. Once I've got that water on there, then I can go back and add some paint to the top. And I'm even using a little bit of blue in there to create a darker purple in some parts of the mountains. The mountains were in the background. Now let's paint the foreground, which is the part at the very bottom of your paper. That's the closest part to you. I start by painting yellow on the whole thing. I'm going to make this kind of shades of green. So I start with a yellow base because yellow is in the green. And then I can put some green in certain spots and make it darker in spots, and then a little blue if I need to. I'm going to let this dry before I start to paint the sky. Now to do the sky, we're going to do what's called wet on wet, which means I'm going to wet my entire sky area with just plain water to start with. I do horizontal lines back and forth of this turquoise color, and then I'm going to take a little bit of the darker blue and add some of that into it so I get a variegated look. The last section I need to paint is the midground. That's the part between the mountains and the foreground, the grass area. This is going to be the red desert area. So I'm starting with orange and a red near the back edge, and then I'm going to add a little bit of yellow, and I'm going to let those colors blend together. Before starting on the details, let's talk about perspective and how you need to size the plants to make it look more realistic. In the background, the midground, and the foreground is where you're going to place your plants. When you start with the background, make the plants smallest. In the midground, it's going to be kind of an average size. The plants in the foreground, which is closest to you, need to be the largest, so you have the correct perspective. Okay, let's paint the foliage, which are the plants. I'm going to start by painting some horizontal bushes. So we've got some taller parts and some smaller parts, and it kind of narrows out as it goes out. Then I'm going to add a couple of small cactuses in the back. Remember, the plants in the background need to be the smallest. Now let's move to the foreground. Again, I'm going to do some of these horizontal bushes. I'm going to add a little bit of green, and then I do just touches of blue, and it'll make it a darker green. And these are all a little bit bigger than the other ones. Now I'm starting in the foreground. I'm doing this large cactus. I start with the green, add a little bit of dark blue to make it a dark green color. And then I'm going to add some bigger bushes to the left with some darker blue in there so I get a varying colors. And then sometimes at the bottom edge, I added a little water just to thin it out. Now I'm going to add a little bit of yellow for highlight. Okay, that looks pretty good. But watch what happens when I add a few more details to make it more realistic. I'm going to put some even tinier cactuses way at the back. Now I'm going to take some orange, and underneath those cactuses I did, I'm going to draw some little hills and maybe a little bit of red, and I'm going to blend that out so it looks like the cactus is coming from the ground, not just floating there. By adding more little hills, I'm also giving it a little bit more look like I have some different depths to my picture. Some are closer, some are further. I'm even adding some hills just by themselves, not even where just the cactuses are. I'm going to also do a little bit with the cactus that's in the foreground. Same thing. Add the green and a little bit of water at the bottom to smooth it out. I had a great time painting this landscape with the tempera cakes. I hope you enjoy them as much as I did.